Yeah, that's right. I bought a motorbike. I literally bought a real motorbike. Check it this, man. Still got petrol in it. How awesome is this? This is a real dirt bike. You're not going to believe it. Check it this. It's unbelievable. And here's the story of how I risked my life to buy this thing. So it was about 6 months ago, maybe 8. And I really wanted a motorbike. Like I desperately wanted something to ride and go like this on. Because it has amazing suspension, this bike. I really wanted one. So I looked on Gumtree and I looked on Facebook Marketplace, and I didn't have much money. I had a cheap little gold pendant, half an ounce of gold, or 1 gram of gold. So that was what I had. I had 0 money and a couple of coins. So I messaged everyone. I said, I've got this bicycle and I have a gold chain. Please will you swap? Please will you swap? Please will you swap? I messaged at least 100 people until one man responded on Gumtree. He said, yes, of course, I'll accept your gold watch, or I'll accept your gold chain, and meet me here in Nigel in Oura Park. Now, Nigel in Oura Park is supposedly a dangerous area, and for a small boy, back then I was maybe 12, 13, it was very dangerous. But I didn't care. So I called the Uber, and quite literally paid in coins. It was 900 Rand approximately in coins, which is like between $70 and $90 in coins. Anyway, I paid the guy. We went all the way to Nigel in Oura Park. In fact, before that, there was a guy who pulled a hoax on me. He said, you must come now to Thunderbell Park. These are areas which are far, maybe 80 to 100 kilometers away, which is far. So I had some coins, I paid that guy. We went there just to be left in the middle of the night, and luckily that guy helped me. He didn't charge me, and we came all the way back. So that was amazing. And then, as I said, we went to Nigel in Oura Park. Now, at my school, there was this famous, not famous, but a really friendly guy called Smarty. And Smarty understood a cultural language in South Africa called Afrikaans. So he was busy speaking with this guy on the phone in Oura Park in Nigel, figuring out where he lives, who his family is, if I could trust him. And again, at my school, they do massive police clearance on all the staff. So I knew that Smarty would be a reliable source of information, that if he said that that guy is safe to buy the bike from, then he was safe. So we went all the way there in Nigel. Now what happens? I'm in a small little, we call it a DIRTBIKE. The DIRTBIKE is a small little town. So I was in a small little town. Obviously it wasn't actually a township, so there weren't informal houses and shacks and little metal, shelters. They were real physical houses. It wasn't that dangerous, just busy. So I met this random guy from Gumtree in the middle of the city centre by one of the, we call it a ShopRite. It's kind of like a Costco or Walmart. So at the ShopRite there, we met him there, and it was very busy. I went with him, I left Uber, I said thank you so much, but I paid him his coins. Then went with this man in his car, and we went to all the jewelers. I had a silver chain as well. We went to the illegal jewelers, and I got the silver jewelry, 50 Rand we got paid, which is like $2 to $5 for that silver chain, nothing. But the gold chain we got paid about $80. So then, that guy said, okay, cool. I gave him the money that the jeweler gave us. What he did was that pendant had to be cut in half. He cut it open and then he did the gold test. We also took that gold chain, the chain itself. So there was a jeweler in a shop. He cut out the pendant and he did the test and he knew that it was gold. So he paid us the gold price of 1 gram. And then we took the chain to another guy, and he had a small bottle of acid. He poured that acid on the gold chain, and he saw that it was foaming, so he couldn't pass anything. And that was the man who paid us $2 to $5 or 50 Rand for our silver chain. Illegal in South Africa, which is amazing. These shops actually make themselves look like hair salons, but actually in the back they're also doing illegal jewelry and buying and all that. So anyway, the point is that I basically got this bike for about 1,200 Rand, maybe between $90 and $100, maybe a bit less. Which is amazing. Now it doesn't work, unfortunately, and I'll get to why it doesn't work now. But the point is that this bike was amazing. Now how did I get it all the way from Nigel in Oura Park, 100 kilometers away, to here? What happened was, this man who I bought the bike wanted to go live in Cape Town, so he needed the money and he was willing to sell it for literally nothing. And so on the way back, he found a friend of his called Munir. Now Munir had this amazing bakkie, one of the lowest bakkies, about 5 centimeters of clearance on the road. And what we managed to do was take this, it's actually quite heavy, although I'm a massive, strong guy from South Africa, it's still a big kind of machine. So the 3 of us lifted it and heaved it onto his bakkie. Then we keep on going. Munir had marijuana and little seeds. He was taking the seeds out of his marijuana and holding his hand out like this on the side of the road, or outside of his car. Anyway, we keep on going, we stop at the garage, he says, phone your mom. please can you pay for our petrol and buy us a pie and a Coke? Now these guys, my mom said, were dangerous. I didn't care, I was in La La Land. I was getting a motorbike for Christ's sake. But my mom said these guys were dangerous and they were trying to extort me for money. So anyway, I phoned my mom. By the grace of the God, I had my phone and SIM card and airtime, which is lucky. Sometimes you don't get signal, you don't get SIM cards in South Africa. I phoned Mom, I say, Mom, they want money for petrol. We managed to figure out a way that I can pay them money for petrol. Thank goodness I had that. I paid for their petrol. It was $400. These guys probably had nothing. Living hand to mouth, more or less. Anyway, we pay for petrol. We keep on going. We're about 10-15 kilometers away from the home. They were saying two things. The first thing they said is, listen man, you didn't buy us a pie and a Coke. Come on man, you must give us something else. As if I didn't give them already enough money, scrambling to pay them 400 Rand for petrol. And these guys were putting on the pressure, you know. They come from a rough little DIRTBIKE. I don't want to get on the wrong side of them. They know where I live, all these bad things. But I don't mind because I was still enjoying the bike and we were having a good chat. And Munir was telling me how he does marble and how he does kitchen tops, and he gave me flyers. And I made sure to wear, you know, really cheap, poor clothing. I had broken shoes, which meant that I wasn't a threat. I wasn't like this, oh, I'm this rich guy, you guys are in this little DIRTBIKE, not much money to... And I wasn't trying to be arrogant. I was being respectful and humble, and I dressed humbly. So when we get back, I say, don't worry Munir, and his friend who was in the back, I said, don't worry, I'll give you guys ice cold beer. And at that time, I was in this position. I was saying how I've done tuck shop at school, and I was selling chips and cold drinks and all these things. So I had so much stock unsold, because the school tried to shut me down. That's another story for another day. So what happened was then, I managed to find an ice cold beer in the fridge, my father's, sorry Dad, and I gave them the ice cold beer, and I gave them some chips and Oreos, and they went on their way. Well, not Oreos, but Astros, which are chocolate. And they asked me one other thing, because they had been paid a lot of money for them. It was like $1,000, $800 to $100. It's a lot of money, $80 to $100, which is like $1,200 approximately. A lot of money for these guys, a lot of money for anyone in general in this country. So they said, listen man, can you tell us where we can go get women? Each of us, we want 2 beautiful girls. And I said, you must go to that one bar, that one club. And then, pah, they left, and they left me with this dirt bike. But that's not the end. That's just how I got the dirt bike. Then, I remember that very day, I didn't know how to ride it. Because with a dirt bike, what you got to do is there's something called a kickstart. So you got to press the kickstart, hold down the clutch, or not hold down the clutch, press the kickstart to get it going. And then you hold down the clutch. It's been so long. Then you hold down the clutch, and you gear up, and you put a little bit of throttle, and then you open the clutch. And I didn't understand any of that. I remember the very first day as I got the bike, I tried to ride it and whatever, I didn't have petrol. So what I did was, I ran all the way to the petrol station the next day, got petrol and filled up the tank. Even now it's got petrol. And I remember riding around town, I had a reflective jacket, I turned it inside out, and I was going, nah, 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 with my helmet on. It was amazing. This bike is unbelievable. And then what happened was, there was a mistake. Something broke. It needed work, it needed servicing, oil, and blah blah blah. And everything just happened that went wrong with it. This is actually a Chinese bike, even though it was so cheap. Everything went wrong. The clutch broke, the sprocket broke, the engine gave in, everything went wrong. And so I found a guy named Steve. Now Steve's a fantastic, very friendly Irishman. And he told me, you got to make your bike your own. Make your bike your own. And so by that he means take off all these plastic panels and go and sand it. So I managed to find a mouse sander, and I started sanding down all these. I was going to spray paint them and make my bike my own. You know, make your bike your own, as Steve said. And then what I ended up doing was I had the wrong grit on the sandpaper, and I put it on the plastic parts and messed them up. And then I couldn't screw any of them back in. So now I have no plastic parts on this. And because it was broken, and it started costing hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of dollars to fix, I said, Steve, please, I'll make my bike my own. I will make my bike my own. But leave me alone because this bike is getting too expensive to run. And then what I did was I left the bike in my room, and I taped on all the places where I'd got my bike fixed and everything, and it was a monument inside my room, until it started getting so much petrol. Then I left it right outside my room, but then it was too much of a petrol smell, and now it sits here at the bottom of the garden, never to be, you know, ridden again. But it still has stood the test of time. And whenever I feel like I'm doubtful, whenever I feel like nothing's going to work, whenever I feel like I'm going to give up, I just remember how I bought this bike against all odds, taking my coins to go on Uber, dealing in a small DIRTBIKE with some of the most dangerous, soon-to-be gangsters I've ever met in my life. Taking a gold chain and cutting it up inside of a jeweler to get a little bit of money, and not even buying this bike with physical hard cash. filling it up with petrol, riding it around town like the big boss, like the big amazing person that I am, and then it breaking, and then me fixing it with my own sandpaper and my own know-how and skills for it just to break, and then to stand inside with the petrol for me to nearly die from gasoline poisoning, to then go outside and then end up at the bottom of the garden. That, my friend, is the story of how I bought this very dirt bike. And it literally changed my life and taught me how to be the big, strong, tough man that I now am. You should do one too.